Marital Bliss by Skywriter.
"All right, maggot!"
bellowed Staff Sergeant Thunderous, one of the Equestrian Royal Guard.
"Today's the day we teach you to use the most deadly weapon in the palace arsenal. Do you know what that is, soldier?"
"With all due respect, sir," said Captain Shining Armor, currently of the Equestrian Royal Guard, and in fact the stallion in charge of the entire operation, "you're not actually my drill instructor anymore. Plus, I outrank you." Shining Armor scratched his mane with one hoof and took a glance around at the unassuming and grimy Canterlot Dockyard bar. "I outrank you. Like, 8 times. Thunderous threw back another mug of cider, his 11th of the evening, and wiped the foam off his whiskers with one powerfully muscled forearm.
"You think I don't know that, you lily-livered pansy? I know you're in charge of that sorry flank outfit you call the Modern Guard. Worthless!"
"Again, with all due respect," said Shining Armor with considerable patience, "they're a fine colt, sir. I would trust any of them with my life. Any one of them." Thunderous laughed, sharp and barking.
"And you actually think they'd be able to save your life if it came to that?"
"I do," said Shining Armor, nodding.
"Pah! They may prance a good prance, but when the chips are down, they're gonna need firepower. More firepower than you've ever given them."
"They're well trained with the spear," said Shining Armor, "and with all major forms of dessert. Up to and including blancmange. I don't think I need to tell you how difficult that is to master." Thunderous shook his shaggy-maned head and belched heroically into his 12th cider. Shining had not even seen him order it.
"Useless,"
he said. "Okay," said Shining Armor, who remained remarkably game despite the rather unusual and off-putting circumstances. "What exactly should I be teaching him to use?" Thunderous ran a lazy eye over the crowd, vanished into it, and returned, a blousy-looking purple-hued Pegasus mare in tow.
"The wife,"
he said, apparently an introduction. "Good evening, Mrs. Thunderous," said Shining Armor with a polite little bow.
"Oh, please, call me Peachy," she said. "Colorblind, damn."
"Okay," said Shining. "Peachy, Thunderous, charmed to meet you. Your husband was just about to tell me exactly what style of deadly force I should be training my recruits to use."
"I did tell you!"
shouted Thunderous, causing some of the other bar patrons to glance at him and edge away.
"The wife!"
Shining Armor blinked. "When you said the wife, that was actually the answer to my question?"
"Of course, Dunderhead!"
"You want me to teach the cults under my command to attack the enemy using their spouses?"
"No better weapon in all Equestria!"
crowed Thunderous, pulling Peachy close, as the mare adopted a winsome little OU expression.
"This is my wife,"
the crazy ex-sergeant shouted.
"There are many like her. This one's mine."
"Oh, Thundy,"
said Peachy, rolling her eyes.
"Such a flatterer."
"My wife is my best friend,"
continued Thunderous, his eyes going a little crazy.
"She's my life. I must master her as I master my life. I eat with her. I sleep with her."
"Well, I would hope so," said Shining Armor diplomatically. "I mean, I don't think you have to master your wife as such, but the eating and sleeping thing—"
"Hush, maggot,"
suggested Thunderous.
"Don't you dare interrupt me in the middle of the wifewoman's creed."
"Sorry."
"You had better be,"
screeched Thunderous.
"With disciplined use, the wife is the single most powerful weapon at pony disposal. A trained attacker comes at you armed with his wife, you better turn tail and run."
"What if it's just his filly friend?" Thunderous's voice got low and dangerous.
"Then you marry that mare, son."
He nodded decisively,
thus disarming him.
"It worked for us,"
said Peachy, snuggling her husband close.
25 years since he first stole me away from that low-life mugger I was with, and I haven't looked back."
Okay," said Shining. "How are these, hypothetical spouse-based attackers gonna be coming at me? How exactly are they weaponizing their brides?"
"Simple," said Thunderous. "They're gonna lift him up and toss him at you. Lift him! Lift him!
Screamed Thunderous directly into Shining Armor's face.
Mark my words, Colt. The day is gonna come when you'll need to take your wife in your hooves, lift her, bodily, over your head, and chuck her at the enemy. And when that day comes, if you haven't trained and trained hard, you are gonna be in an entire world of hurt. The final darkness will be falling, society will be collapsing to the shards all around you, and you'll be lying there in the throes of painful lumbago, absolutely unable to finish the job.
The job of throwing my wife at the enemy?
Yes!
Shining Armor backed a step or two away. I'm not even married, sir, he said.
No excuses! Screamed Thunderous. Listen to me now, Armor. When that fateful day arrives, you will remember these words, and you will weep, Armor. Weep that you did not heed them. Someday, the fate of Equestria will hang on your ability to treat your wife like a massive projectile.
Sir, said Shining Armor, I think you've maybe had enough cider for the evening.
Oh, don't be like that,
said Peachy.
I thought he was crazy too. That is until he used me to decisively end the Battle of Rushing Ford. Chucked me right at the Insurgent General, knocked him on his helmet and clang.
She clopped her forehoofs together.
Rebellion quashed. Kind of fun, actually.
She shot Thunderous a sly little wink. There was a pause. There was no reason that this should be a moment on which the world turned, thought Shining Armor. A chance meeting with an old drill instructor, now obviously quite senile and totally bucking insane. A plan that made no sense whatsoever. A highly dubious version of history that did not gel well at all with the books of military tactics that Shining Armor had voraciously devoured at the academy. But nonetheless, the air seemed to thicken around him, as though destiny was pressing down on the three of them with an iron hoof. Shining Armor could not explain it, but the sense of inexplicable, inescapable gravity was clear. What he said here tonight, right now, had the power to shape the future of Equestria.
All right, said Shining Armor, feeling destiny lock into place. Show me.
You, said Thunderous, gathering his faithful wife up in his hooves and adopting a lifting stance,
will not regret this.
Many years later, as invading shadows clustered and gathered close around the coronation balcony of the Crystal Citadel, Prince Shining Armor's eyes tracked a falling star of bright teal across the poisoned ochre sky, a tiny streak that represented Equestria's final hope for salvation. If some pony could only fly up to it, catch it in her hooves and snatch it away from the ravenous jaws of the spirit of the ancient and deposed Unicorn King, then the Crystal Empire and by proxy all of the world would be preserved. But Cadence was too weak from exertion to execute a proper Pegasus takeoff, and even if his own horn had not been neutralized by dark crystal magic, the falling heart was well out of his telekinetic range. There was indeed only one plan left. He glanced at his beautiful young bride. She glanced back at him. They nodded to one another.
I hope you know what you're doing,
said Cadence, clambering up onto Shining Armor's back.
Everything will be absolutely fine, my dearest,
said Shining Armor, flexing his powerful deltoids and quadriceps.
And you know why?
Why?
Shining Armor's face was a mask of beatific confidence.
I, he said, trained at the hooves of a master.
The end.